Hello, lovelies. Good morning, or evening, or whatever it is to you. Um, I'm Trump. Yeah, I think Trump is guilty, but I mean, there's guilty and there's like guilty. Um, I don't think. Um, I think he's more of an endophile than a pedophile, and I make that distinction. I think people have raped him with their children, just like they do on a mass scale. Um, which is why the Catholic Church is being avoided. I feel there's all these people going after quote unquote predators, but really they're just the lower level people, part of their network that they're throwing under the bus to make distraction so you don't go after the people on the top. And on top of that, they could just like ritually possess people too, to try to make them err as greatly as possible. And I believe all these things were done to Trump. So if you think you're going to go to hell, Trump and friends and whatnot, you don't need to make it worse, you know? Um, and you don't need to be like, well, I'm going to get tier 1, so let's shoot for tier, 7. You don't need to do that. There's always redemption, too. So, and I feel like Trump gets hit with like dues and shit, by the deep state. Not only that, but I think they put like that alien parasite in Trump. And Trump does resist a lot of these things. And these are things that people don't know, um, that they put the groomed leaders through. Um, well, most people don't know, I guess. There's some that do know these things. So I would say just relax, Trump, and do your best to resist and fuck their shit. There'll be no fucking end times, 2.0, no rerun of the end times, because they're trying to do a rerun of the end times. And, like I said in one of my videos, it seems like stuff seems like revelation. Well, just because you guys got to wake up and everything. So, you should really just defend America and not be serving your little Zionist friends that rape you with their children and then have their children do inappropriate things around you and then, normalize it with their families all around you. And yeah, so there's always considerations for, redemption and whatnot. And you don't want to ruin that just by like, oh, I'm going to hell, so whatever. I don't know, maybe a lot of us are, because hell is just a reflection of how, you lived, how you done things. So if you did things terrible, then you're going to have to face that reflection, so why are you going to make it worse, you know? And I don't think the gods are going to be that, strict on, that anal on the weird consenting stuff that you do. They get Trump to say a lot of stupid things because they like fucking ritually possess him with some shit demon and then normalize all the weird, pedophilia and endophilia around him. And then, a major clue actually are the victims. When there was Virginia Giuffre, and I'm pretty sure others, they're doing their press conference saying that Trump was never the problem. And it's like, exactly, they're all like, it's like when Bill Gates came and Hillary came and, all these other people that came, Ghislaine Maxwell, Trump was just someone that they tried, recruiting, to kind of hide behind, not as vicious as Epstein. And these things should be recognized and are recognized. You know, so yeah, and I think I think Trump could be like a little guilty compared to the laws that you write on the books and everything. I don't know how guilty he'll be, when the gods actually get to you and start assessing your life. But there's no need to make it worse. I mean, people are like, I'm gonna go get spanked, so I'm gonna, keep doing bad things so I get spanked harder, and it's like, just doesn't make sense, it's something that a child would do, and you should probably not do that, Trump. And just, fuck their shit, let's help actually purge America, they're all fucking doing their mind control shit on Trump really hard. I mean, really, really hard. They put like an alien parasite in him that like gives him the black eye. They're fucking blasting him with like EMFs and shit. Maybe even drugs and chemicals. And he's, I feel, now taking that into account and everything, I've been a little harsh and a little poopy pants lately, so I could get, be a little too judgmental. And so, you should, help America out. Not this people that fucking, rape you for life and try to control your mind, try to get you to do stupid things, occasionally getting you to do stupid things like walk through teenagers' dressing rooms and brag about it, which all that stuff, if people were just trying to get him to do inappropriate things and stuff like that, it's much different than eating children and fucking like literal babies and children. So, an example of him saying stupid shit is like, oh, I'll date my daughter, she's so pretty, and it's, that's the ritual possession inside of him, very likely, that people are unaware of. But yeah, I would say, don't make hell worse, and maybe you could do things to make an argument, against it. Be like, look, yeah, I was all airing and everything, and doing this and that, but I saved, billions of people, or millions of people by doing this. It's, you choose who you want to be. And I understand there are forces out there that really try to get you to be like, well, fuck it, whatever. Don't listen to that shit, Trump. Don't listen to that shit. You are who you choose to be. People try to control you with electronics and all sorts of shit, spiritual shit. But you should resist. You should resist. Even if they're going to kill you, just fucking resist. Shouldn't worry about death that much. Because we could all come back here. Some of us are trapped. Some of us know how to get out, come back anyway. And yeah, so I think Trump is a lowercase g guilty, and you could help out with the uppercase G guilty, and yeah, so, and that likely will get you some redemption points. So yeah, but if you just say, fuck it, I'm going to go to hell anyway, and I'm just going to be a piece of shit, then you're really not going to get any redemption, right? So, so yeah, I think Trump does a good job resisting a lot of the evil. They get him to look as bad as possible, but it's this whole, like, community of people, like, a whole network of people worldwide that, like, raise their kids and do all that fucking, weird shit, because, I experienced a lot of it too, like, people rape me with their children and then get their children to feel themselves up around me and shit. And that's the child predator network. They also fool a lot of the fucking child protectors, you know. And they fool them in many ways, like they're doing right now. They're going after all these lower level people. You know, they're doing these false flag shootings and everything. They started 2 wars and whatnot, and just anything to distract from the people at the top. They're like, look, we're getting some of these predators, all right? They were asking, you know, teenagers online if they wanted to sex. You know, that's pretty much the same thing as, you know, hunting them, you know, bringing them on an island, trafficking them to an island, and doing a hunting party. It's pretty much the same thing, you know. And it's like, no, it's not the same thing. There's capital P predators, and there are fucking people that are just kind of like sexually erring and everything. And I really feel that a lot of those people just be given a ticket to Israel's hell would solve a lot of that problem. So you're not fighting amongst yourselves with these lower level ones that they themselves create at the top. Because really, all you're doing is just kind of fighting amongst yourselves again, you know, and I don't really like that, you know. So yeah, I would say get the ones at the top, focus on the top, don't get distracted by the ones at the bottom. Still no, I mean, they do the mass scale molestation shit at the fucking Catholic schools and churches. Why, oh why? Hang on a second. Why, oh why are we congratulating ourselves, you know, for these, you know, creatures or monsters, you know, that they made, you know? And a lot of stuff that people are congratulating them over, they're like, so they just asked your daughter, you know, your teenage daughter if they wanted to fuck. They just asked that. And you're trying to equate that to the other shit that fucking Virginia Giuffre and others talked about. That's like night and day. They're two totally different things. And a lot of you people could just tell your teenagers no. But you do this show. It's like a bread and circus. You do this show and you make it look like you're making a difference, but really you just made a bunch of trash all over the place, and you're not going to go after the trash makers. You're just going to be like, look, okay, we'll pick up some of the garbage, and aren't you guys satisfied? Aren't you, we're going to still be tossing trash everywhere and sewage everywhere and blah blah blah, you know, but it just feels kind of downward punching, and they're trying to distract really hard. You know, so these attorney generals across these states and whatnot, and they're like, we're going to crack down on predators. Well, why ain't anybody fucking busting the doors down of the Catholic Church, and the Vatican, and all that? You know, and all these Catholic-run orphanages that have hundreds of dead baby bodies discovered, you know, years later. You know, so again, they're just fucking, the monsters like to make some monsters, you know, so they could cosplay their hero status. And I'm not falling for it, and other people shouldn't. You know, people should, you know, listen to the victims on the worst stuff, and then, you know, not get caught up in their little shows that they fucking perform for you. They're like, all right, you know, so, you know, we've recruited all these families and everything. Let's throw some of them under the bus, you know, so we can make it appear like we're making a difference when we're not making any difference whatsoever, you know, and don't fall for that shit, you know. And, you know, that's all I got to say. Trump, don't make it worse, you know. One thing that I've been thinking about this past week or so is some of the victims always saying, Trump was never the issue. And exactly, that's why they're trying to, be like, maybe he was undercover. Maybe he was undercover. It's really hard to infiltrate these things because you got to like fuck and eat babies and shit, and so it's really hard to infiltrate these things. So maybe he was, but see, the FBI lies constantly. They lie about every fucking thing, especially with the false flags that they always roll with. They're trying to get people to hate, Muslims, so they get one of their MK Ultras to mass shoot and wear I am Allah shirt and have a Quran right on the dashboard, and that's all clearly Zionist stuff. That's when I see that, I see Israel's allies, doing that, and just blaming it on someone else. And they can make deals with people like, we'll take care of your family and yada yada, or just like straight up 100% mind control them. I don't really know the circumstances, but I know it wasn't Muslims that did that. It was someone wearing the mask of Muslims to try to stir up hatred, and a lot of that is going to keep on happening, because there's a ton of Zionist cells in America. I'm not too sure about the Iranian cells, but there's a bunch of Zionists always trying to, wear a different mask, get other people to wear a mask, and then, point the finger. They invent monsters so they could cosplay hero. It's one of their number one tactics there. So, anyway, and you don't need to go along with it, Trump. I understand you're being pressured greatly, and your mind is under attack, and you're being spiritually attacked. And you should do what you can to resist all this shit. Even if they put an alien parasite in you. Why don't you try detoxing some? I hear the 1050 hertz kills fucking parasites. So yeah. I'm a little under the weather. I might skip yoga today because I'm a little coffee as I'm smoking a cigarette, right? So yeah, just don't fall for their tricks. They got lots of tricks. Don't take your eyes off the prize. I appreciate people releasing the Epstein files. I feel the surface level stuff is kind of a bit of a distraction, but you got to get past that to get to the deeper stuff. So I appreciate people are doing that, and not letting up. And you shouldn't let up. And where's the Catholic Church in all this? The Catholic Church plays a big role. They mass scale, roofie, molest people. And then they make a bunch of patsies for the child protectors to get all riled up about. And that's what, like, the child protectors are similar to the predators, because they'll, like, do anything to get that CP on you, right? Like, well, you gotta fucking, get it. Whether they're like yes manning somebody that's been like abused for life, or they're getting their FBI and CIA people to, get some other family to show them, show children their CP, and then, raping them and everything with their children, and yeah. I see a lot of these predators and everything. They have families, they have positions of power, they have normal jobs and everything, what people would think are normal jobs. And they attack, the population on a mass scale so they can make a bunch of other little monsters that aren't as bad as the other monsters, because these people are just erring and, probably ritually possessed, molested by their, the predators' children and shit. And then they get people to be like, look at that, over there. See that guy? That guy, that Muslim supposedly Muslim that shot up a bar recently. Was a lot like that, finding that 9/11 passport after 9/11. They're like, oh, look, here's this Muslim passport right here on the ground. Oh, gee, golly gee. And it's just a bunch of fake nonsense. Your government is very corrupt, especially in the federal level. It's nearly taken over by all the demons, and shouldn't fall for their tricks. And and Trump, just don't make it worse for yourself, right? Are you going to try to redeem yourself from, all the, stuff you might have done, And again, I don't really, like, the FBI lies constantly. So when the FBI comes out and be like, look, they could have been totally honest. The rare case that they're honest. They're like, look, we lied 99% of the time, but this time we're honest. Okay. Then, earn some redemption, Trump.